Hello, everyone. Glad y'all can make it tonight. We've made it through another year, just a couple more days ago, but this will be the final show for 2022. It's been a great year, and we're going to have a little presentation looking at some of the cases and making sure everyone has contact information if they have any information on any of the cases that we've highlighted this year. Little information, clean house and housekeeping. Nightbot is up and running. So we don't have to worry about the prompts out there, mods. Everybody in chat, be responsible and be respectful to all the mods and each other, and enjoy the show. Debate it out as we go forward with the presentation. And if you have any questions or any suggestions for 2023, you're welcome to contact me at steve@truecrimeweb.com. And I appreciate that contact, those emails. They help me a lot. I get a lot of great information from that. Anyway, we'll get into it here. As always, we start off a little bio. This is Mrs. Steve, and I'm Steve. I'm a retired law enforcement officer, 20 years of service. Started off my career in the jail, worked road patrol, and went into investigation. During those 20 years, I had all different types of training from SWAT all the way into becoming a state certified crime scene tech.
Molly did make it.
She did make it? All right. I'll get to her in just a second. But after I got my state certification as a crime scene tech, it helped my investigative career immensely. And I've worked all different types of crimes from thefts, burglaries, and including homicides. And finished out my career as a crime scene tech, totally dedicated to working and processing all different types of crime scenes. I retired and then became aware of the true crime world and the web sleuths, and decided to become an ambassador for law enforcement the best I could. And have came out here and started my YouTube channel and have exceeded all expectations. My channel is growing. We're moving. We have a great future and plans for next year. A lot of things are happening. I'll give you some updates of where we're going to be going with programming and all that as we go. But, this is, I never imagined I would have as many videos and content created on so many different subjects and topics this fast. When I first looked at becoming a YouTube creator and deciding to move into and creating a show, a large part of it I owe to, and some of y'all know, Randy Gravitt. I watched him for a while and saw that he had interest in a case that we all know, Delphi. And I watched that, and he got my interest and got me focused on that. And that's what started me wanting to become a part of this community and see if we could have an impact. And because there was a lot of issues and debates coming into light at that time. And it's not been that long ago. I mean, we're only talking, less than a year, back in March or so. And I found it extremely interesting. And I saw that there was, a lot of issues and misunderstandings about law enforcement. And Delphi is a very complex case. Doug Carter does not steer you wrong when he says this is a complex case. All murder investigations and all investigations are extremely complex. And they'll take you down a lot of paths you never imagined. And it just, in the same, I found out from the YouTube world that when you go into and you start looking at these cases, certain paths you choose to go down, or there's so many different opportunities and ways that you can present information. And I chose a certain presentation style, and I've stuck with it. And so far, we have seen growth with it, and I'm going to continue that. Although in the new year, we have some new programming coming out and new avenues of and things that we're going to be working on. And we have to thank all our viewers and our members and subscribers and it's just absolutely amazing how much everyone has supported this channel. And, the trolls, they do show up every now and then, but they're really not that bad. And I really don't mind. There's no better career that you could go into that will prepare you to work with trolls than law enforcement. There's a lot of people continuously out there that will absolutely try to push buttons and get you upset or make you make bad decisions. And while a lot of people and make great hay with some of the trolls, they're not. I don't really fear them at all. But it would be nice if everybody pulled together and everybody worked for a common cause. But anyway, part of our channel as we growed and we wanted to do is that we realized that our most vulnerable group of individuals out there, and the number of missing and murdered children. And as I was doing research, trying to go out there and find other cases that might be similar to Delphi, of course, it's easy to find Evansdale. But after that, when you go into some of these states and things looking in that region, you couldn't see it. So that drove us to create a database that's, of course, federal government has back out. And so we did Cyclops, which is a civilian base, where you can go in there, and it is very limited as far as the scope of individuals included in this database. It's all children, 19 years and younger. And how many states are we up to now? You have an idea?
A bunch.
Yeah, she works on it daily, and we have thousands of children that's included in this database now across the country, and we have thousands more. Bless our volunteers and Mrs. Steve working on it. As we enter them in, it's never going to end. But if any of y'all wish to look at that, and as we build a database and as it progresses and changes, and if anyone wishes to volunteer, please let us know. We'll get you signed up and we'll get you out there assisting us. And we appreciate all the help because we couldn't have done it without our volunteers. And this was a path that we really didn't know what we were going to go into. It never occurred to me that working in the law enforcement, that when a law enforcement officer needs information, he goes over to the computer, and we have certain databases that we have access to, and search engines that no one else has. We can get those criminal histories. We can get information, vehicle registrations, and there's all different types of databases out there, and find those fingerprints and see where people's moved across the United States. So it's a little bit different than in the civilian world. You have databases out there you pay for, but not all of them are extremely, updated with the most recent and accurate information. So you have to be very careful when you use some of those. And it's far different than what the law enforcement databases are. But we created this one so that you can have the ease of going into a state or a region, looking at and seeing where the clusters of missing children are, and if you live in a certain area, and that you can use this to educate your family, your children, and see what's going on. And if you have a special interest in a cluster of crime, absolutely send me an email and we'll look at it. And I'm going to be going more into that as we progress. It's just, it's so much. We had a new direction that we took with the channel that we never knew we would, and that was the cold cases, and which is something that I will do to the end of time. As long as I can get out there and get from one space in one place to another, I will. And I'll go out and try to help these families find their lost loved ones, killers, because, as long as it's unsolved, there's always the potential that predator is still on the street and is still hunting new victims. All right. Well, one of the cold cases I'm currently working on is, of course, Amber Nicole Crum. Um, and she was 2 years old, went missing in December of 1983 in Dallas, Texas. And spoke to Larry over the holidays, texted him back and forth, and going to meet with him sometime in the next few weeks and get some final information and be going to Texas relatively quick during the winter. And so there's a lot to do on this case, and there's a lot of information that is still available. And we will be opening up new ways to bring awareness to this case, just like we have with the Evansdale case, and we'll be doing with the website. And of course, we do have the Evansdale with Lyric and Elizabeth, and working with Drew Collins. And I'm going to go meet with him in a few weeks also. And spoke to him recently, and I look forward to getting back with him. There's a lot of stuff that we have to do on that case. Now, the additional cases, these are the two cold cases that I have the ability to speak freely on right now. But there's other cold cases even further out west that I haven't got the clearance to speak of yet. But at some point, we may or may not. Just depends on if the family wants me to. And everything's left up to the families. I work the cases regardless if they allow me to speak of it or not. Work it the same amount of that I would any other case. But we have some of the missing children out there. We did some shows on Monkey, Michael Vaughn, and if anyone has any information about him, the information is here on the page. Make sure law enforcement knows it. Then we have one for the floor 4 of where these 4 children died in a house fire. That was just a few miles away from Delphi. If you have information on them, absolutely let law enforcement know. And then we have, and these are no special order. I just, as I went through and was pulling them from my presentation sheet, they just popped up. Then we have the Idaho 4. If you have information on that, this is a contact information. Make sure law enforcement knows of it. Whoop, let's go back. And then we have Dylan Rounds, which is a very important case that the mob crew and Chris has gone out and worked. Personally went out there searching a few times, and he really wants me to come out there, and I really want to go out there, and I will be going out there sometime. I just don't know in Lucin, Utah, when the spring thaw comes in.
July. Just kidding.
No, hopefully not. No, hopefully we'll be there a little bit for it then. But then we have additional cases that's even further west and into the northwest out there that I'm looking at working at and getting involved in. And then, of course, we have Delphi with Libby and Abby. And you know, if you have any information on them, absolutely call them, make sure law enforcement has it, and get those tips and clues in there so that they can have an impact. A little bit more, like I said, as we go into the new year, we're going to have some new programming coming out, and it's going to, I'm going to have a early morning show. It's going to be called Morning Watch, wasn't it? Yes, Morning Watch. And Morning Watch in law enforcement is the 12 o'clock hour until daylight. It's in law enforcement, the Morning Watch hours are a different type of element of people out there. And of course, you're working at night. And here in Georgia, those night shifts and dealing with the type of people, of course, you got a shift change where you have normal society and workers coming and going home or going to work during that midnight shift. But the ones after those shift hours, the ones that are out there that's committing those crimes in low light conditions, doing those armed robberies, doing some of those night stalker types of crimes. And there's just a whole different type of criminal element out there during those hours. And I enjoyed working those hours. I like the dark. I've always enjoyed working in the dark, and I had a pretty good career at it, and I enjoyed it. But we'll also we have some supporters that asked us to do something, and so we decided that we were going to do it, and they assisted us in doing it, and we're going to start a nonprofit. We got it's going to be filed. Mrs. Steve spoke to the attorney today. They filed it last week, and so sometime in the next, whenever we hear back from the Secretary of State, our nonprofit will be there, and that'll allow the people that wish to make those donations that will have those tax benefits to allow to support. And we were asked to do that. And so we're working on it. And Single Mom for $10 super sticker. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All that support, all that money, everything means so much to us. It allows us to go out and do a lot of things. And but as we move into the next era, and as we expand, and I start taking on more cases and start working with some of these other PIs. I have some great contacts in Indiana. I have some contacts in Texas, and I'm looking at some contacts as far out into Utah and Idaho. And so as we expand and move out and doing the travels and everything, I look forward to working with these families, and hopefully I can see the same relief that a lot of these families, all they really need and really want is that for people to care. And that's what we would do. We absolutely care for them, and we want to go out there and help them best we can, process whatever or answer any questions they have, and do what we can. And I'm looking forward to that in the new year. But anyway, if anyone has any questions about any of these cases or anything about my career, ask me. I'll answer it the best I can, because I've answered, I've had thousands of hours of training. I've answered thousands of calls, worked thousands of hours, been in, I ain't no telling how many pursuits, been in a few shootings, and seen my share of the horrors that you can imagine in society. But that was a choice I made to enter that field. I'm a second generation law enforcement. My father started in the 60s and finished in the early 80s. And then I went into law enforcement and had 20 good years. All right. We got anything going on?
No questions.
All right. Well,
no questions.
I'm glad that we've done our job.
Done what?
I'm glad we've done our job. Just go down through the comments, and
there's not any.
There's no comments?
No, they're all.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's fine.
There's no comment.
Okay.
I mean.
Okay. Well.
It's hello, Mr. and Mrs. Steve. Hello, guys. I'm here.
All right. Just list the names. Thank them.
All right. So here we go. Nancy. Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Steve. Mine's and everyone else here. Single Mama 4. Hello, guys. I'm here.
Thank you for being here.
Single Mama 4. Hello to you, too, Mr. and Mrs. Steve. Verbal Judo. Hi there at Nancy and Single Mama 4. Hey, you at Verbal Judo.
I appreciate all our people that, and it's heartwarming to see a community, and I'm very proud of our community. The occasional troll that comes in and tries to disrupt us, of course, our mods take care of, but we have some really nice people out there, and I appreciate it. Tina Roger, $10. Appreciate.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Oh, here's you a good one.
All right.
Leave it to Molly.
Okay, what Molly got going on?
Any funny stories from crazy people you pulled over during street patrol days?
Oh man, you wouldn't believe, and there are certain people that you get into and you stop them for various reasons, and it can be that they're under some type of substance abuse or alcohol, and they're really dangerous. Those interactions, but occasionally you'll meet individuals that they're just characters, and not all criminals are of the same caliber. You have some people in there that they're just, out there at the edge of the flat earth. And, and that's what they believe in. But yes, there's all different types of individuals that you go in and, and you be talking to them, and they would give you a story about the individual that they're having an argument with. And you'd ask them, well, where is this individual at now? Are we in danger or whatever? And so that you can get eyes on and try to identify them. And I've answered calls like that. Actually, the guy that introduced me and Mrs. Steve, he came in on a call that I was in one night, and I was in there speaking to this lady, and she says, she will not leave my house. And so I said, who? And she pointed over to in the corner where there's a big recliner, and says, she won't. So I looked at the recliner. Of course, it's empty. And so I instruct the empty recliner. I said, ma'am, you're going to have to leave. You're going to have to get out of this lady's house. And the lady that called, she jumped on her also. She's talking to this empty chair. I'm talking to the empty chair, and my partner, he's outside, and he thinks I'm about to arrest this lady that's in this empty chair that doesn't exist. And I was threatening, I just playing along with her. And so anyway, he rushes in to help me arrest her. And he looks over at the empty chair, and he looks at the woman, and then he looks at me and just shakes his head, turns around, and walks out. And but there's a lot of stories of like that, sometimes when you go to these calls, these people just want you there for whatever reason. And you play along and you go on about it. You made their day, and you escort the imagined people out of the house, and sometimes that's all it takes.
So how many imaginary people did you escort out of houses?
I think a couple out of houses and one out of a treetop.
A treetop?
Yep. My lieutenant said I was in a confrontation with an individual that was telling me about the stalker. And I said, where is the stalker now? And they pointed to the top of a Georgia pine that's about 75 feet tall and said, up there. And so I was informing them there was nobody in the tree, and they were very argumentative. And my lieutenant pulled up and asked me why I was arguing with a complainant. And I said, because the person in the top of the 75-foot tree won't leave. And so he said, okay. So, but no, when you're dealing with the public, it's every complaint that you can imagine, we pretty well have handled or seen at some point.
All right. Got some more. Molly, what are you looking forward to doing the most with shows and cases next year?
Well, we've got, as far as the shows, I've got probably almost 3 months of hard work I've got to do on the cold cases, including the travel, creating content, and things of that nature. Then as far as the shows, we had a members meeting last night, and we talked about things about family protection, certain cases, kids' safety information, from everything from having those safe words for children, and to discussing certain firearms, less lethal options, security systems for the homes. And I will probably do a lot of that because as we create these new shows, the Morning Watch, I'm going to break it down that it will have sections to it, because it won't have the same, we're still going to have our Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday shows that will have our presentations, slideshows. But the Morning Watch will be more of a breakdown, and it'll have certain topics throughout the hour that we would discuss, and including breaking news, cases, searches, wanted persons, and things. So we can get into that aspect of what we've always wanted to do in those areas, and haven't created the format and the platform to do it. So we're going to be getting into that with the new shows that will be coming out on the Morning Watch.
I won't be a part of the Morning Watch.
No, it'll just be me, myself, and I, and whatever mods I can keep up past midnight. And we'll
I
still,
think you'll be by yourself.
I probably will be by myself for quite a bit there. But, and
And Single Mama 4 said that she could benefit from a show or two on safe words for kids. She'll teach her grandkids.
yes, and I got a email today from Purdue, and exactly of that. She sent me an article of where a child was able to foil abduction attempt due to those safe words. And
That's awesome.
so that's absolutely amazing, and that's what we want to do. We just want to have an impact, and there's a lot of ways to have those impacts, and that's what we want to do with this channel.
That's awesome. All right. And Dwayne's prospecting adventures. Steve, have you heard of Asha Degree in Shelby, North Carolina?
Not, I may have, I just can't place it, but I'll write it down.
Okay. If you want to add anything, Dwayne, drop it in chat.
And also send me an email. If it's a major case or something new or cold case, I'll find it. But or you can send me an email. I appreciate it.
And Eileen, do you feel Moscow, it's not Moscow, it's Moscow,
Moscow, I don't know.
is nearing an arrest?
I do. I was on Chris's show on the Mob Crew last night, and he was showing an interview with the police chief. And the police chief, when they were asked of how come they were not releasing more information, and his response, which is the first time I'd ever heard that response, was that he didn't want to taint a jury pool. It wasn't that he wanted to keep the information close so that they could close the case or keep it so that they could weed out the false confessions. It was to keep from tainting a jury pool. And I found it extremely interesting, and I found that hopeful. And it's, and they've been looking for that car, and they've there's certain things that have occurred during the investigation that drives one to believe that they're moving towards a certain individual. And I hope that is the case, but I do believe it will be solved and relatively quickly, because you don't fight 4 people without some type of transfer of DNA.
I'm trying to get this one. Nadia, the police chief of Moscow, looked pretty happy. I think he has a suspect. And
he has that sly grin all the time. And I know a lot of people in my life that they're that way. But he did at points in that last interview seem very confident and seem cheerier than what I would expect from a person speaking about such a tragedy.
All right. And here's on Asha from Molly. Asha's a 9-year-old missing 20 years ago, left her house in the middle of the night. All kinds of strange clues later, nobody and no arrest.
Okay. All right.
Wow. So that might be a good one.
Absolutely.
You wrote it down?
Yes, I got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you want to compare notes at some point, give me a few days to look at it, and send me an email.
All right. Then Anna added, but they found her book bag and some possessions either buried or simply discarded in a ditch about 35 miles from home. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It is.
Okay. So we'll have that.
Especially being buried.
Yeah, that's awkward. All right. And Nancy, Mr. Steve, I'm seeing more former LE detectives, forensic, and profile agents such as yourself starting true crime channels. Do you think that will benefit in solving current and cold cases unnoticed?
Absolutely. I believe in it. I have people all the time questioning, do you think it's wise to do this or do that? Bringing awareness to the cases and trying to keep calmness in this, and within the aspects of the investigation is what is, in law enforcement, that's what works for us, is that we're driven, but we have a certain method to the madness of how we approach cases. And the more individuals out there that have the proper training and understanding and can bring awareness to cases and work with people, and because all of us have great intent, we want to assist each other in helping law enforcement solve these cases. And the more of these guys out there, and I know a few of them, I look to collaborate with some of them in the coming year on certain cases. And I speak to Perry quite a bit, and then of course you got CD, and I look forward to working with them in the future. And these other crime scene guys out there and law enforcement and investigators, I hope they have an impact. I wish them the best. And if anyone's out there that's getting into it, if there's any way I can assist you, absolutely get in touch with me.
All right. And let's see here. Molly. At True Crime Web, happiest and nicest outcome LE experience.
Well, it's very rare that you have that anyone ever calls law enforcement with good news. But I guess delivering the baby.
Delivering the baby would be it.
Yeah, I guess, I got to see a lot of the opposite of bringing life into the world. But delivering the baby was probably one of the most memorable. And of course, there's a story I can't tell along with that until I retire from the YouTube world.
Right.
It's nothing bad.
That will be a parting gesture.
Yeah, it's nothing bad. It's just funny.
Well,
it's funny.
Sorta.
Yeah, it's sort of funny. It was funny to me.
At the time.
Yeah.
All right. And Alice, that's an interesting story, Mr. Steve. I called the law for an imaginary kidnapping once. A deputy came out and assured the person that was telling everyone that she'd been kidnapped that she wasn't. Happens.
But, and whatever's driving those people, and like I said, there's a lot of conditions, and law enforcement's trained to try to handle those the best we can. And they're, as we go further and training gets better, because sometimes you have these people that you just cannot control, and they'll push law enforcement into doing things that the officers don't want to have to do. But sometimes these people, they're not in touch with the world.
And Tina, do you have any suggestions to keep online predators off our youngsters' devices?
There's no way that we're going to be able to keep them off of our devices, but there's so many apps and certain ways of monitoring. And actually, I don't know if Jordan's in here tonight, but Jordan is in the computer world, and I'll be working with him in getting how you can supervise and monitor and narrow that what measures can be taken as a parent or any relationship you have with children, or how to protect them. But yes, that was one of the suggestions that we'll be working on.
Mm-hmm. All right. And Legay, what was the coldest case you helped to resolve?
I worked on a case that's still cold. I absolutely believe that we know, but for whatever reasons, there's a lot of cases out there that you may know who is the responsible party, but you're not able to prove it. Everything points that way. But you just don't have that one piece, just like with Delphi. What was that one piece? We find out that they had the one piece early on, but sometimes you don't have it early on. And you get the cold cases from a different era, especially when I came along, that the cold cases that I looked at were not of the types of cases now were the code cases that are coming up in the future. A lot of CSI and a lot of DNA evidence is out there. the cold cases I looked at and the cold cases I worked on were, you know, 10, 12 years old back then. Now they're, let's see, 30 plus years old.
Mm-hmm.
And, but do I believe that who the responsible parties are? Absolutely. Will they ever be able to prove it? I don't know. Hopefully at some point, the investigators that worked the cases and some of the evidence that was worked, and then you have some cases that when that era, and you look at some of the ways they maintained DNA before it became mainstream, that they started collecting evidence and they never knew or ever imagined that DNA would ever exist. And these people go out there and work these cold cases and they solve them now. And it's a miracle that they have a piece of evidence that stayed inside a bag, locked up in an evidence room for 40 years, and DNA survived. But that happens. And so that's going to be the greatest thing that will turn those cases. And you see it in the news all the time, that those old cases are turned around by that. The cold case stuff back in those days, and there's a lot of crimes across the country. There's not a department out there, I would imagine, that doesn't have at least one cold case that is in modern times within the last 20 or 30 years. And so there are a lot of them out there. You look at them, and some of them you have no way to advance. Some of them you reapply or resend the information or the evidence into the crime labs, and they come back with new evidence, and it confirms information that you received, that only an individual that was at the location would have known that information. And so when you send off a key piece of information or evidence and you get back that they told you something that you never knew about that case, and now you have supporting evidence, and then you still can't proceed. It's just so aggravating sometimes. But yeah, the oldest case I've got, I guess, that from my law enforcement career is probably 30 years old now. The longest one from where we started with this channel is going on 40 years.
And Mr. and Mrs. Steve, what's y'all's top New Year's resolutions that you can share with us?
Oh, goodness. I didn't even make a New Year's resolution yet.
Well,
I've still got 2 days.
we still got 2 days, but I want to solve I got one that's touching me, so
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's it for me. I don't know what he wants to do next year. He hadn't said anything.
No, I've got to work on that. That's, I hadn't even thought about it. I've been so busy.
He's playing with new toys.
Yes.
He's got a new show next week
Yeah.
that's going to be very interesting.
Yes. I got my new toys, and so I can work on the fingerprints. And Mrs. Steve helped me last week by redrafting a letter on John Bonet case, and we're going to be looking at that letter, processed it, and got the.
And guess whose prints is all over it, right?
Well, yeah, I assume they're yours.
They are. Well, mine and baby Steve.
Yeah, and so did some interesting tests, and that's probably what it is that I hope for and look forward to doing a lot more crime scene stuff next year.
All right, and Nancy, thanks for answering. Maybe instead of unsolved mysteries, it will be solved mysteries. I've been following that show for years, and sometimes there's just not solved.
Yeah, and I watched the show today, and I had a lot of people tell me you need to go watch the Texas Killing Fields, and I did, and it's a very interesting show. I learned a lot about the Texas Equal Search I didn't know about, and it's absolutely amazing how much evil's out there.
There's been a couple people like Anna and Molly and somebody else, I can't remember who, talking about reporting cybercrime. Molly has dropped the link in to chat on the FBI cyber crime reporting. So if you want to copy that and save it someplace, go grab it. All right. Let's see here. Nancy, Steve, what is the oldest cold case that you know of? You've already done that one.
That that I now, of course, now that I know of, I was taking that from that I was involved in.
Right.
That I know of, oldest cold case. I don't know. I think there's some of our people in chat. I think Anna Lissette works on the. She's a ripperologist, I believe. Or,
what?
Works on Jack the Ripper.
Oh. Yeah, she's here.
Mm-hmm. I think she may not be, but I think she's the one. And of course, that's and I love that case, and I've read several books on it. And
oh, look at here. Ramona knows you well. He wants to walk the whole Moonon Bridge.
And I don't now that they got the rails and the new platform, she still won't let. So I'll have to walk it by myself. She won't let me. She won't be. She can't get there. She can't even get across. She like broke my hand getting across the Freedom Bridge.
Let's just don't talk bridges. Molly. Aunt Steve, if you ever have 5 minutes of free time, what do you enjoy doing?
I fish.
He fishes.
I fish a lot.
Or
I used to.
Not in the winter.
No.
But
yeah. Well, yeah. I used to back when I was younger and stay in the cold.
Yeah. So there you go. Let's see here. And missed. Question for Mrs. Steve. Has Mr. Steve walked in and you ask, what is that smell? Yes.
Yeah, because you do get in some situations. But I can tell you this, a lot of times Mrs. Steve already knew what I was becoming involved in because I'd be working the case. The crime scene unit would be on scene, and you still have to feed that crew. And our department size, of course, we had to rely a lot on ourselves. And I would always call Mrs. Steve, and she would go out, get the water, get the food, make sure because working the crime scenes, that it's not that you're there for 8 hours or 4 hours or 12 hours. You're there. Josh, Mr. and Mrs. Steve. Don't forget about the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children Cyber Tip online form. Excellent. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes. There's a lot of stuff out there. And we'll get that. Actually, that'll be part of my new shows. Thank you for that. Don't forget. And so Mrs. Steve would always be involved in it.
What did they call me? What was I?
SWAT mom.
Oh, I was SWAT mom. That's right. I had to sew all the patches on all these boys' uniforms.
Yeah. Because she also fed whenever we was out on certain type of engagement, be it training or even during some call outs. She'd bring us whatever we needed and make sure we was fed and got watered and everything.
Oh, Melissa, just wanted to say hi. Can't stay, got COVID, and my dad fell off his bed. I'm not sure. He's at the hospital, didn't want to go, but we insisted. Oh, well.
Hope you get to feeling better.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Get feeling better, do everything they say, and get to feeling better soon.
And Molly needs a little bit of good vibe juice, if we could. She's having a little issue herself. All right. Susan Purdy, thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
Where'd it go?
Means a lot to us.
Yes. All right. And Molly dropped the NCMEC cyber tip line out there. So the link is there. Let's see here. And I found one. Oh, here it is. Anna, oldest cold case. Heck, we could go back to Cleopatra. Yes, I am a real ripperologist. Have done original research and contributed a crumb to the whole. That is fabulous. I did not know that.
I thought I had seen that, heard
That is
mention that.
awesome. That's cool. That is too cool. All right, so let's go back.
Cleopatra. Now, that tells you something about someone that knows a lot about the crime scene, cold case world.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. All right, and that is all that I had out there. Let me just scroll back and make sure I didn't.
Someone
miss
appreciated you being called SWAT mom.
Aw.
I have
see here. I was SWAT mom for years and years.
I had, I guess, 16 or 17 years on SWAT team.
It was a long time. Long time. All right. So I don't see, let's see here. Scott Brown having issues with donating during the lives. Are you on a phone or your computer? If you're on a phone, get with Molly. She's got a little instructions. All right. Any other questions about anything, any suggestions? We would like to hear it.
Yep. As we move into the new year, and I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, we've absolutely been floored and humbled by so much support, and it means a lot to us. And I know when I speak to Drew and Larry, they're absolutely touched by it because they never realized the amount of people out there that care. And so as I explain it to them and talk to them about it, and as we move forward, I look forward to continuing our relationships with them and with you. And we appreciate everything everybody does for us.
All right. Susan Purdy, safe to say Mrs. Steve is no rookie.
Mm-hmm.
No, not when it comes to marrying law enforcement.
Yep. And she went through a lot. I gave her a few restless nights, I guess.
A few?
Right.
Several phone calls from.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Oh, yeah. But anyway, guys, y'all stay safe out there. I appreciate it. And we'll see you after the new year and get that all scheduled out. Let's see. New Year's Day is the Sunday?
Sunday.
Okay. So, and then the first. So we'll probably be getting started on the second Tuesday. Will be Tuesday.
The 3rd, I think.
Is it the 3rd?
I think that's the 3rd.
January the 3rd. It'll be that Tuesday after the 1st.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll have us a show then and look forward to seeing y'all then. Y'all stay safe out there and see y'all soon.
All right. Happy New Year. We love y'all.
Bye-bye.